Welcome to On the Brink, the show that talks about all the reasons not to become an entrepreneur. Every fortnight, we speak to an accomplished founder about the fine line between breakdown and breakthrough. This show is brought to you by Brinc, a global venture accelerator empowering the world's game changers since 2014. I'm Cheyelene, and today we're with CEO and co-founder of Web3 healthcare data platform, Aria Health, who completed Brinc's Web3 program just last year. Georgina, how are you?
I'm very well, thank you. Lovely to be here. And you?
Very well. Thank you so much for joining us. I'm so excited to speak to you about your experiences. I'm just going to briefly tell a little bit about Aria Health. So, Aria Health actually began in 2018 as a research project which was published in one of the top medical journals in the world, The Lancet. In the last year, Aria Health has expanded significantly, which we'll get into today. But first, let's start with the roots of it all. Could you share a bit more about the story behind the inception of Aria Health as a business and the specific problem you aim to tackle when you were first starting out?
So, my background was originally working with PwC in London, and I specialized in the healthcare industry. So, I was often working with pharmaceutical companies, health data companies, and the likes. And through a various journey, I ended up at a university. I built online education platforms, and they were the first university in the world to do a master's in blockchain. And then I just got really excited by the whole concept of blockchain and decentralizing decision making and getting this kind of wisdom of the group, the incentivization structures, found it fascinating. And so I said, you know what, I'm going to do the master's. So I was with my co-founder, Fadi, and we said, okay, let's work together on this thesis. I mean, both of us have finance backgrounds, but wanted to do something different. And then his wife was actually rushed into hospital. She was in agonizing pain in her abdomen, but they had no idea what could be wrong with her. And they ended up leaving her in the waiting room while they were searching for her medical record. They needed to know, had she had previous surgeries? Did she have allergies? All these different factors, which they just couldn't gather the information about her, despite that being her hospital as well. And it was just by luck. I mean, really, by luck, a doctor came by. He knew her. He rushed her through for an ultrasound, found she was bleeding internally. She had an ectopic pregnancy. She had lost 3 liters of blood. Thankfully saved her. It was so unbelievable that we don't have access to the most important data there is. We have access to all our other data, but this health data, which whether it's in an emergency, whether you're handling a chronic condition, whether you have elderly parents or you have children, this is essential information and we don't have access to it. And then at the same time, we're sitting there looking at this technology, which is all about giving back ownership and control
Absolutely.
to private information, security, etc. And we just said, you know what, these marry perfectly. So that's where it came from. And that was really our core mission from the beginning has always been about empowering patients and giving that power back. And then through our development, we realized that this need for access to health data is much wider. It's needed for developing new drugs, for solutions, for public health, for so many different reasons. We saw it when then COVID came, like how important that data was and how difficult it was to get access to. And also what we see is that it's being accessed by so many people and we have no awareness of that. We just want to change the whole way that data is shared now and get us involved. And that brings benefit both to the patients empowering us, but it also helps the industry because the industry want the patients involved. We are the source of all the information. So they need us. And so that's really kind of why and what we're trying to do with this.
Wow, that is a phenomenal origin story. As a founder, I mean, having a story like that, it doesn't leave you on those hard nights with those hard deadlines and those hard things that you need to accomplish. Having a powerful why is absolutely essential. So going back to the range of experience that you've had, you mentioned that you worked for PwC. So you've also worked in marketing, you've held a few management positions in your time. So having experienced all of that, how would you rate your time as an entrepreneur? I know that seems like such a trivial question, but if you had to actually put it on a scale, could you?
Rate my time. It's a hard one to rate, but it's the best thing I've ever done. So I'm going to say like a 9. There are definitely things which are hard, but As you said, I've been in different positions, in management positions in companies, and I've always loved working. I mean, I don't know what that tells me, but I'm passionate about getting into something, figuring something out. And I've gone into many companies, and I've always been passionate while I'm there, but I found that I've never been able to give as much as I wanted. I want to be all in on something. I want to have all the responsibility, which means if it goes wrong, that's my problem. But if it goes right, that's mine as well. When you're a startup, one day you're a lawyer, next day you're an accountant, next day you're a
Oh,
salesperson.
absolutely.
But I love that. And sometimes that's the hardest part, but it's also the best part. And I think being an entrepreneur is not for everyone, shall we say? And sometimes it's glamorized. And in fact, I was even a bit resistant. I was like, no, 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 no. It makes more sense to work your way up in a business, do well in that, to get a good career. I resisted, and eventually I love it.
From the sounds of it, you started this journey from an obligation to fulfill this, right?
Yeah.
It didn't start with, I want to be an entrepreneur. It started with, I want to solve this problem
Yeah.
and I want to help and I want to throw myself into it. So that's fantastic. Looking back now at where Aria Health is today, could you tell us something that your company has achieved recently that you're proud of?
So recently we won a big government grant project. So it's actually to build the health data infrastructure for Cyprus. So for a country, it's starting with kind of specific project, and we're working with all the main hospitals here. We're working with big universities, even like the University of Stanford's biomedical department. That's been a really exciting project. We've got all these partners, but with the technology piece that kind of connects it all. And that's really exciting. I'm really proud of that.
With all of these achievements in the docket, what would you say was one of the most trialing things that you could name in the process of achieving all of that?
I think the difficulty in entrepreneurship, and to be honest, I
Yeah.
think this is true in much of life, is there's a big timing mismatch. So you can put in a lot of effort for things, and you can go out there and you can make things, you can build things, and you can go and back and forth, and the reward comes much later. And
Yeah.
that can be a real challenge because you really have to keep yourself energized and motivated, and have that faith that all this effort you're putting in will come. And take this project that I just mentioned. In some senses, this came easy to us. They actually approached us, we got
Mm.
involved. But like all those stories of overnight successes, there's the overnight after the 10 years beforehand. The only reason it looked easy to us is because we've been working on this for years, building,
Yeah.
thinking, failing, trying, networking. Then suddenly at that point where the opportunity was, we were able to walk in the door and immediately offer what they needed. That's the challenge with this. It takes time and commitment and faith to just keep going, keep building, and just keep figuring it out.
Congratulations on those amazing accomplishments. I think it's absolutely true that people don't see all the long nights. They make the
Yeah.
assumptions, but I think all founders know just how much work it seriously takes. So, do you have any specific advice for founders who would come across these struggles or any other struggles that you've experienced as an entrepreneur?
Having that patience and that faith is really important. You need to take time. Don't be
Yeah.
conned, shall we say, by the media that make everything look like it's an overnight success. Because normally,
Yeah.
and I actually purposely do it now, when I see like a company that's doing really well, I start searching and find out when did they actually start. Because often it's 2 or 3 years beforehand than everyone said. Or the founder had multiple failures in that industry before all this. So I think being aware
Yeah.
it takes time, you need to focus, you need to concentrate. And then I think just the important thing is to get out there and talk to people and to get involved in the industry. That's the only way. You're not going to learn by sitting in your home trying to figure it out alone.
Hiding
Like, you
away.
need to just go out and say, right, this is what I'm thinking, this is what I'm trying to do. And you get that feedback. That's the only way you'll know.
Absolutely. That's great advice. So, talking about the pivotal moments in your journey as a founder, could you share one of those pivotal moments that was a significant learning experience and what you may have learned from that?
Going out for investment was a really interesting experience because you start by doing a research project in my case, then working with hospitals. We did a
Yeah.
good job at planning with the hospitals. We made sure we found a partner from the beginning. And so we build a product to understand their needs. And then you go out to investors and they just have a completely different spin on things, different way of looking at things. They challenge you on your business model. That's one big thing. The risk sometimes with research is you're doing it almost from too much of a good place. Oh, I just want to build something, but that's not sustainable. And so you have to have that combination. Like investors definitely challenge you in a different way. And then the
Yeah.
second thing I found is knowing how to capture your audience and how to highlight the important bits. It's so important from a sales
Yeah.
perspective, from raising investment. And so also that they really challenged me and saying, okay, well, how am I even presenting this to people? How do I get across, health data, analytics, medical research, like stuff which most people go, oh, and make this
Right.
something which is understandable and exciting and meaningful. So I think that definitely was a big pivot.
The last two responses you've given, they sound like major reality checks. It's like you go into this having some assumptions and with the best intentions, and there are going to be all these external factors that come in and give you that reality check that you need. So in
Mhm.
terms of reflecting on your entrepreneurial journey, can you share a proud moment that reaffirmed your commitment to what you're doing with Aria Health?
It's never sort of one big moment. It's these little moments where you meet someone and you say, "Oh my God, I use your app and it's really helped me." And you go, "Wow." Or there was once, I remember someone, there was a news article about the importance of empowering patients and medical records. And someone had put a comment saying, "Yeah, like Aria Health." And I was like, wow, like it's such a
Oh,
small thing. But you just
yeah.
go, wow, people get our mission, they know what we're doing, and they believe in the mission, and I'm having an impact. As I said, like the point is to empower people, so the fact that they feel that is really exciting.
Seeing amazing feedback about your service or your solution out in the wild like that in a news article, that must have been a phenomenal feeling. Were there any aspects that you initially overlooked as a first time founder?
It's very tempting always to build too fast and to build too much before you go out to market. In hindsight, I would probably be more specific about what an MVP is. What exactly are you trying to prove? You just want to build it, and building's not easy, but maybe some people don't like me saying this. I still think it's much easier than getting people to use your product and commercialization, because you have more control over it. You can design
Right.
it, you can develop it, but you can waste a lot of time and money building things and then finding out that wasn't quite right. And in our case, we even tried not to do this. We went and worked with the hospital. We spent every day for a week, all day with them, walking through their processes, speaking with all their staff, speaking with patients, speaking with doctors, in the attempt to make sure we built something that was what they needed. We came at the end of the week and said, okay, this is what we're going to build. And they all said, yes, great, great. So off we went for months,
Yeah.
building. And then we came and we introduced it. Okay, we're a little unlucky because COVID hit a month later. And the whole way we designed the application was that someone came into the hospital, scanned a code, and that's how they joined. And suddenly no one was allowed in the hospitals. So we had this kind of like, okay, we have to change our whole onboarding method, which
Oh,
ended up being so much better for us because now we have remote onboarding, which has completely expanded how many people can join us. So it was a good thing for us. But the
yeah.
point was that when we actually went to market, what we thought was needed ended up being something very different.
And if you could go back to the very start, are there any measures you would take to help ease the difficulties of founding a startup?
So I'd say early on, you should do more planning. You should really think about what you want to achieve. You should make sure you validate your market. And then I'd also say, don't get analysis paralysis. You can't plan everything. You can't know everything. But I think just making sure you're aware of exactly what, okay, I'm going to go out there now. What am I trying to test? I want to test this one
Yeah.
thing, just making it a little bit, breaking things down into smaller steps. We often have these big visions, and that's great, and the vision's important, but you need to just say, okay, well, what's the first 3 steps that I need to do, and just kind of bringing it down a little bit more.
I'm telling you right now, that analysis paralysis thing, you're going to see that as a graphic quote on our socials because that's gold. That's really good. So, last few questions here. Going back to how we ended up here speaking to each other, would you say that your experience with the Brink Accelerator program, how has it shaped your business? Did you gain the insights that you were looking for in both healthcare and Web3?
Yeah, definitely. It's been really great. I mean, particularly, we had some fantastic seminars, which were very specific, or webinars that are very specific to our issues, like, data protection issues, data sharing issues, regulation issues. We do a lot on that side already, and yet still they were giving me so many new things, new people to be introduced to. One of our main advisors came from the Brinc program. So we have Andy Liu. He was the former president of IQVIA, which is like the biggest, IQVIA Asia Pacific, the biggest health data company in the world. So having that kind of experience, it is really valuable. And he's just been so supportive. And there's been many other mentors there that we keep in touch with and we connect with and help us out. And then also a lot of investor connections that they've brought us to. Yeah, so huge amount of kind of network opportunities and
Fantastic.
learnings.
Well, thank you so much for sharing that. My last question about this, for any founder considering an accelerator, what advice do you have for them, if any?
So definitely go in knowing what you want. What I
Yeah.
find is after an accelerator, you get some people who loved it, some people who didn't like it. But it's very clear
Mm,
that obviously there are some accelerators which aren't as good, but a lot of the time the issue is not the accelerator. The issue is if the person's not committed in it, then they're not going to get from it. I feel like accelerators come with this open hand, like, we're here to help you. Sure, we'll tailor some programs, some webinars, but we can't tell you what you need. So I find that
yeah.
if you're going into an accelerator, go in wholeheartedly and
Yeah.
say what you need, ask for what you need, ask for the connections. It does take time. I don't join accelerators lightly because you need time for them. They're not something you can just sort of say, yeah, yeah, I'm part of this accelerator. No, that's the whole point. They're meant to accelerate you. And
Yeah.
especially, as we have online accelerators, people can feel like it's sort of, I've got my main job and this is on the side. And it's like, no, this is your
Mhm.
opportunity to go out there and say, I need this help here, I need this help there, I need this connection, I need that. You need to know what you want, and you need to go in and you need to ask, and the accelerators are more than happy to help. That's what they're here for. But
Yeah.
if you're going to sort of sit in the sidelines and just put on some webinars in the background, then it's not good for
Yeah.
anyone.
What is the next milestone you are most excited about for Aria Health to achieve? Is there any news you can share with us?
Well, we're just about to launch a set of new features on the app. So far, we have been mostly focused on medical records. And so we work with hospitals directly. But now we're bringing in a whole series of features which aren't necessarily linked to the hospital, but just to yourself. So you can track your medication, you can track your symptoms, you can manage all your vitals and wearables, and then you get rewarded for that. So we have our rewards mechanisms. So it's really about incentivizing adherence to your medical protocols and capturing that sort of key information that you need for your doctor, and also very valuable for researchers. So this is, yeah, it's a sort of big addition on our journey to just sort of really open up the doors to our app to really anybody that is managing a health condition, which is a lot of us. Just sort of launching that now, and a whole new rewards program behind that.
That is awesome. Congratulations. That's very exciting. We've reached the end of the serious interview question part. We're going to play On the Brink's quickfire question segment called Madness or Greatness, where we challenge our guests with a series of scenarios about the highs and lows of entrepreneurship. So your task is to judge each scenario as either madness, meaning a definite entrepreneurial faux pas, or greatness, a strategy or habit that could pave the way to success. Okay, number one, skipping sleep to work more hours.
Madness. Nope, nope.
All right.
Entrepreneurship is a long term journey. I think people misunderstand. Every now and again, of course, you got a big deadline, fine, but it can easily become a habit and it will only undermine your next days.
And number two, networking at every single event you attend.
Well, it depends how many events you attend. So if you're just trying to attend anything, then you're madness. It'll take up all your time. But if you're at the event, then greatness. Go talk to everyone, be open.
Fantastic. Number three, reading at least one book a month. Would you say that's a need? A greatness?
I would say it's a greatness. Yes, I think
Yeah.
having that input of new ideas, of messages is really valuable. So, yes, definitely greatness.
Number four, investing a significant portion of profits back into the business. Any thoughts on that?
Greatness. You've got to, yes. Got to just keep growing it, keep growing it. Yes, definitely.
Number 5, saying yes to every opportunity that comes your way.
I'm going to say madness, but it's a difficult one because I think it depends on which stage of the journey you are. So if you're early
Yeah.
on, you just got to say yes and take some
Mm.
risks. But as you get a bit further down the path, you need to be very clear on what your goals are, be
Yeah.
open, but have kind of your boundaries up.
Fantastic. All right. I promised it would be painless. I hope that it was for you. That's the end of that quick fire segment. Thank you so much, Georgina. This was such a pleasure.
Thank you.
To find out more about Aria Health, visit myaria.health. And to learn more about all the other amazing founders and mentors in Brinc's ecosystem, head to brinc.io and subscribe and follow for the next episode of On the Brinc. And we'll see you next time.